Hi, I'm John Newton, aka Snap-on John 100, and you are watching Wilderness Self-Reliance. Today, I'm out here with my beautiful wife, and I'm going to be teaching her how to make a bow and drill fire. The first step we got to do is we're out in the woods, we got to find some tinder. So step one in the process of starting any fire is collecting your tinder. Stay with me. Okay, we found a cedar tree, Cass standing right next to it. So the first thing she's going to do is collect some cedar bark, and she's going to use the back of her saw to scrape the outside bark of the cedar tree to gather some of the bark for her bird's nest. She's using a Baco Laplander folding saw, and she's got a Pathfinder haversack that she's carrying. Yep, that's the back right there.
What about the long pieces?
You can save the long pieces too, because then we just crush them up and they get fluffed up too.
So I've got fluffy stuff coming off, and then I've got some long pieces coming off. I'm not scraping real hard. Do you think I'm scraping?
No, that's
hard
fine.
enough?
Nope, that's fine. Because I know of another cedar that's dead that will even be easier to scrape that we can try a little later.
Do I need more?
That's a great amount. Okay, so we just put that in our haversack.
What part?
And you can put it in there. There's a plastic bag in there. You can put that in there.
In here?
In one of them, so just so it doesn't get lost in the bottom of the haversack. Okay, we're out with Chloe and Wiley, and we're looking for some sagegrass. We're in southern Missouri, and sagegrass is one of the really great tinder sources for your bird nest. In our neck of the woods, there's not a whole lot of really good resources that I have found so far, because we're predominantly in an oak forest, and oak is a hardwood, and I haven't found any other uses for the oak other than like burning and cooking on that firewood because it's hot. Okay, here's some sagegrass right here, and so Kath is going to I also have a pair of shears inside there to make it easier. So what she's going to do is just grab clusters of it and cut off the more fluffy tops, because that will have the most surface area to start a fire.
How many do I get?
You want to get a whole giant amount. You're going to be getting a whole giant amount so that you have your tinder bundle is going to be consisting of this. So you want to have a tinder bundle that's at least about a softball size. So you're going to need way more than that. Like, that's just the bare minimum. Like, that's just getting started. So we want to go where there's more of it so we can get a big clumps, and you want to cut it a clump at a time because it's more efficient.
Okay.
There's some over here, so we'll walk around and find some more. I have found ticks on this stuff, but mostly it doesn't have any on there. Okay, you want to grab bunches of it at a time, all together, and you want to cut farther down. Yes, just like that. You want to gather up a bunch in your hand and then just cut it off. Yep, just like that. And you're just going to be folding it up and shoving it in your haversack. This stuff burns really well. And if you're not trying to go backpacking, it's nice to have a pair of heavy shears with you. I also use them to cut wild roses and other stuff like that that's in my path that I can't get around. Kath, up ahead I see some grapevine. Let's see if there's any outer bark you can take away from that. That outer bark doesn't make a good material for the bird's nest for where the coal goes, but it makes a really good base for it because it's more woody. So it burns well with a flame, but it doesn't really catch from an ember very handily. At least that's been my experience. So you want to just peel that off. You don't need to, yeah, peel it off in strips. Just like that, yep. And we're going to put that on the very bottom of the bird's nest. And that'll act as our first little small fuel source when the bird's nest gets going. As soon as it lights, you'll slowly turn it upside down, and then the flames will go up through that stuff. And that will burn longer to get our really tiny stuff going easier. Because we don't want our bird's nest to burn out too fast before our small stuff catches. So having something like this really helps out. There's a nice branch there that's hanging dead. We'll use that for our fire too. Doing great.
This is really dry. Is it usually this dry?
The outer bark is. That's also dead too. It was cut.
So is it better that it's this dry?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
But even live grapevine, the outer bark exfoliates off away from it, and so it's still all dry.
Hey, Miss Chloe.
We got our two companions with us. There's little Chloe.
Little Chloe.
She's 10 months old now, I think.
She'll be 10 months old at the end of July.
All right, let's examine these piles. Now, the small pile, which is right there, you need about 5 times more than that.
Okay.
You're doing pretty good with the mediums. Because everything's dry enough. Now, the stuff that's laying on the ground right there, that's not going to be any good.
I gotta take a walk around.
So we're going to have to walk around, and we're just going to be collecting small stuff, so we'll get back to you in a moment. Okay, so now we're going to just create your bird's nest by processing that down, grinding it up, kind of putting it sideways and cranking it like you're cranking a bicycle pedal. Like that, perfect. So what you're doing is you're trying to create as much surface area as possible. And she's got her haversack below her, so any of the little fine stuff that falls down, she can still collect. However, the very finest stuff we're going to put our ember on is going to be that cedar bark, because that acts as a coal extender. Because we're going to stall her out with a very small coal from a bow and drill, and then we want to put that on the cedar, and the cedar will start smoldering, and then you'll get enough smoldering ember that will start on fire.
It, probably just one step at a time would work for me. So this, I can sit down here and work on the other pieces?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want.
So what she's doing is she's putting it on her, the haversack, so it's not getting on the ground. And she's just processing it because she's going to end up, she wants to have a piece about the size of a softball or so. A cameo appearance for Wiley.
For girls, I don't know, our hands aren't really quite as rough as guys, so we might need to put some gloves on because I'm kind of getting, like I'm getting stabbed by some pieces of this.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So,
it's good to have gloves with you. I didn't bring any,
Just a
unfortunately.
Just a tip.
Now this extra processed is going to be in the middle. She's just going to leave some of that unprocessed that's just going to be flammable grass that she's just going to bend a couple of times, but she doesn't have to grind it up to make it really fine. So we're doing the same thing with our bird's nest as we're doing with our fire. We've got a super fine coal extender on the very top. Then the next layer is highly processed grass. Then below that is unprocessed grass, and then below that is the unprocessed outer bark of the grapevine. And get one more little small bundle of grass. This is the unprocessed part.
This is all the stuff that I processed. We don't want to lose that.
Right. No, Chloe will guard it for us. That's good right there. Yep. Okay. So that part she's just going to kind of sort of fold up on itself several times so she can create kind of a round bird nest. And then once she has that, she'll put the rest on top of that. That's really good.
And put this on top?
Yeah, put that on top, because that's even more flammable. Okay. Once you've got that done, you can put the grapevine underneath that. So, and she's got some grapevine over there that she gathered, and we'll just put that on top of the stump to keep it off the ground. And just kind of, yep, and that's going to be what you're going to hold on to when you cup it and blow on it. There you go. Now what you want to do is put your haversack on top of that so it doesn't blow away.
You don't want me to put the cedar bar?
Not yet.
Okay.
Because that's so fine, we don't want to, that's the last thing we do. Okay. Just press that down. Yep, that'll keep the wind because it's kind of windy today. Okay, so she's going to be using a Mora knife, and she's got a piece of soft wood. That particular piece of wood is basswood, and she's going to carve a spindle.
I'm going to try to carve a spindle. This is my first time.
Okay. Cath's going to try to carve a spindle, and we have an example right here, so she has something to look at. She's carving to the outside of her thigh so she doesn't cut her femoral artery. Okay, now you want to flip it around. You want to keep it even so it doesn't get away from you.
It's got a big knot there.
To get rid of the knot, you use a push cut.
I think I know what that is, but I've never done it. I've seen you do it before.
I'll demonstrate that if you need me to. You're doing really well for... Actually, you're doing well, period. It's looking good. You want to look straight down on it and make sure you're lining it up with the center of where it's going to spin. That's fine. Now the other end needs to be pointed in a blunt fashion.
Oh.
Alright, let's see what it looks like now. Alright, that looks pretty good.
Just the knot. I didn't really get past that knot. Right here.
Okay, to get rid of the knot, you want to use a push cut. Okay, put your thumb on top of the handle, right there, and use your other hand to push the blade. Use your thumb to push the blade. You want to have a loose grip with your hand, just to control the handle, but all the power is in your left thumb pushing forward. And so you just get to the very top of it and push it. You want to use power and thin slices, because it's a hard thing. So you just kind of, and you use your thumb and don't use your right hand at all. You shouldn't be swinging your arm around at all. Your right hand, your left thumb is pushing the blade. And it's better. Well, it looks good. That looks great. Okay, so now we're ready to prepare the hearth board. So for the hearth board, we have a piece of cedar. It is, I think that is Eastern red cedar. So all you need to do is take your knife and square up the edge, which is pretty square now.
I'm not sure what that means. Square up the edge.
Run the knife down the length of the long side, but the edge. Yes. Just like that. We're squaring that up.
The other side too?
Nope, just the one side. We're going to put a notch on that. That's the side we're going to have our notch. Okay, that looks really good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find a spot for our spindle. And so what you want to do is you want to put your knife away now. Okay, now you're going to be positioning your spindle on the hearth board so that you can get the two married together and start forming your notch. So the first thing you do is you put the spindle about half of a spindle diameter away from the edge, and then you press it into the thing to make a mark on it so you'll have a spot for to drill. Okay, once you've got that, then you take your knife and you put your spindle, or you put the hearth board on some other surface. Yep, just like that, because you don't want to put it on your leg. and then you put you're going to be drilling it, so you put the butt of the knife in the palm of your hand. The butt of the knife goes in the palm of your hand, so that you're not slipping down and cutting yourself. The pommel of the knife, which is the very end, the black end is the pommel. That goes in the, yes. Now you can press down and you don't have to worry about having your hand slip. Keep the butt in the palm of your hand and not riding out of your hand. Just like that. If your hands get slippery, or depending on the shape of the handle, if you don't have it like that, you'll end up sliding off.
Does it need to be
A little bit wider. You can lay the knife over slightly. Lay the knife over slightly and you can make it bigger. Okay, that looks good. Okay, now what we're ready to do is we're ready to get our bearing block out on our bow. Alright, so we're going to be using the bearing block that I co-designed with my friend, and that's the one that's designed so that it's easy for a beginner to get an ember with. So that's the one we're going to use. It's got a 2 different bearings inside it. Alright, so now the next thing is you're going to load your bow. You're going to hold the bow in your right hand. If you're right-handed, then you're going to bring the spindle up through the string, between the bow and the string, and then twist it on itself. Just like that. Okay, doing it like that. Now if you'll notice, the spindle is on the outside of the string. Can you show us can you show us that? So the spindle's going to ride on the outside of the string. If it's on the inside of the string, when it gets to the ends, it will jam and jerk everything out of the hearth board, and you'll lose everything. So you want to make sure it's always on the outside. And that's why we put it through that way, having the business end that goes down up through. Okay, so now we're going to what's called marry the two together, and that's to just take the spindle and drill it into the hearth board until you get it blackened and large enough, and then that way we can then start forming the notch after. Doing good. Alright, that's good enough. Now as you can see, there's a blackened spot on there, so now that we know exactly where we're going to put our notch. Let's hold that up. Okay. Alright, so we're going to now notch the hearth board. Let's bring this over to the camera. Okay. This is a little bit too far away, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife and we're going to cut some of this away. This is a little too far back.
Okay.
Alright, and see where the center was? This was caused by angling. The spindle was not perpendicular, so it ended up coming back into here instead of drilling straight down.
So we take some of the
So she's starting her notch with a saw, just to so it makes it faster to saw, and she can make sure that it's centered right in the middle of that black spot.
I'm going kind of sideways because I'm not strong enough.
Here. I'm going to loan her a smaller saw. I don't like using that saw. I use my pocket knife saw. And so what you want to do is make sure you're bracing your work on your leg so it's not flopping up in the air. And you also making sure that you're controlling your arm so you're not slicing your leg off. A cut with a saw is really hard. It takes forever to heal. Okay, and so that looks good. You don't want to go too far. You only want to go just right before you get to the center of that black spot.
Okay. Good.
Okay, now let's show it to the camera so we can all see it. Okay, we're in a shadow. There we go. So there's the dark spot, and you can see the notch is formed with the saw. Now she can take a knife and easily clean that up. But now she's got a good starting point. And the front edge, she's going to chamfer that, which means cutting at an angle on both sides. And that will allow more oxygen to get in, and the ember will have a bigger place to fall. Another good way is to put the work on a stump or something and then rock the knife against it so that it's not really moving much, or on a log.
Should I take more out here?
Yes. You're doing pretty good. Now let's see what it looks like. Hold it up in front of all of us. Okay. That looks almost perfect. I want to take that down right there. And that's all you need to do. Don't go any wider. Just take that hump off so that the coal can fall in there better. That's great. Okay, so now we're ready to create an ember. So all right, there we go. We're going to load the bow. It's backwards. Turn the bow around. There you go. Yep, you want to brace the bow on your leg and use two hands. There you go. And you can kind of, if it's having a hard time, you can just sort of roll the spindle. Okay, and then you want to wrap up the end of the cord so it's not getting tangled up, because I've had that catch in my string. And now I get the bearing block right there. Now move your foot forward so the instep is right next to the hole. Okay, now you're going to brace your hand and wrist. Yeah, move your hand right there. Okay. Try to make sure it's perpendicular and just start bowing slowly and smoothly. Your hand needs to come closer to your leg. Okay, you're doing great. Keep that up. You don't need to speed up much right now. You're just filling up the notch. Make sure you're breathing. All right, now you want to go faster and long, full strokes and faster. When you're breathing, blow onto the flame, the fire, so you're giving it more oxygen. Okay, now go fast as you can.
It's as fast as I can.
Okay, well, don't press down so hard. Well, you might have an ember now. You want to let it sit there for a second, and you don't have an ember. It's not smoking. Don't take it off. You leave it on. Leave it alone. Okay, so now she's uncovering. So now she's going to put the cedar bark. After she processes it, she's going to put the cedar bark in there. That's got to be fluffed up a lot.
What's going on?
Go. Now you need to go way faster than that, because you already have some dust in there. Faster. Breathe. Make sure you're breathing and blowing into the system. You're trying to aerate that system with your breath and breathe at the same time. So you want to go twice as fast as that. And increase your downward pressure some. Now go as fast as you can. Now lighten your pressure and go faster, way faster. Lessen the pressure and increase the speed. As fast as you can do it. Okay, I think you might have an ember now. Now blow on it from way up high. It's working. You don't want to blow too hard, but you want to blow enough to keep oxygenating it. Now carefully rotate that hearth board out of the way so you don't disrupt anything. Because you got a very delicate ember there. Take your bow or some hard thing and tap on it to knock everything in. Good, you've got a great coal there. So now you want to just let it sit there while you rest. Let me zoom in on that coal. That's a really good one. Let it rest. You need to rest. And that's correct. You bring your bird's nest over to the ember, and then you want to carefully put that right in the center of your bird's nest. Now cup it together a little bit. Close the thing around it like a taco and blow harder. The key is you're depriving it from some oxygen, so it has a chance for the coal to form instead of trying to burst into flames. You want to get a big fiery cherry in there. So you want to blow harder than that. When you blow, it needs to be glowing. Blow harder than that. All right, so I want you to start squeezing it together some and then hold it over your head and blow up through it. Close it together more and blow harder. Harder and longer. Keep. It's looking good. If you can, keep blowing for a longer period of time instead of, because about the time it's going to take off, you stop. So you want to see how long. Okay, good. Good job. You got it. Now you want to turn it over. Remember I said turn it over slowly so that the, now put the other wood on there. You got a great, see how fast that stuff burns? That's great. Now let that kind of burn down a little bit. See, what I had asked you to do before is when it starts on fire, you slowly rotate it so that woody bark of the grapevine is on the top. So yours was on the bottom, and then when you flipped it over, the grapevine never did get on top, so it really didn't get to burn. But that didn't matter because that stuff burned so well. Now you can put more wood on it. Now you can put the big stuff on there. Great job. You did a great job, Kath.
Wow.
It's a lot harder than it looks.
Do you want me to put more on? Wait.
Just put it on a little at a time instead of just throwing a big pile on. Okay, now get that, what you want to do is take that other stuff that's flammable and put it in the pack. Great fire. Kath made her first successful bow drill fire, and she did a great job. I wish I was a little better of a teacher.
I think I have smoke inhalation.
Turn out, but we're giving it our best. This looks like we should have just cooked it on a rock.
I don't know. It's looking pretty good from where I'm standing.